What's up, YouTube? Back at it with another video again. Today, I'm gonna be touching on the U.S. dollar crisis, right? So, as I mentioned a couple videos ago, a lot of the countries in BRICS are trying to break off from the U.S. dollar, and it leads no further than this new article that just came out. It's by Bitcoin.com, titled U.S. Saudi tensions escalate as report says Crown Prince is no longer interested in pleasing the United States. After Saudi Arabia and members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries surprised the world by announcing cuts to oil production, a spokesperson for the U.S. Biden's National Security Council stated that reducing production is not advisable. According to a recent report, Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman has told associates that Riyadh is no longer interested in pleasing the United States. Now, a lot of countries have been trying to separate from the United States. Number one is because what a lot of Americans don't really understand is a lot of these countries are built off the alpha male perspective. So meaning that these men consider themselves the alpha male and they don't necessarily have respect for presidents like Joe Biden, right? They respect people like Donald Trump because Donald Trump, he might be crazy, but he speaks his mind and he actually means what he says. So whether it's right or wrong, a lot of these countries, they don't respect Joe Biden. They just look at him as an old president who doesn't know really how to do anything and doesn't really know how to run a country, right? So let's go back into the article. Why am I bringing this up? Let's go back into the article. So, there has been a lot of focus on OPEC members and BRICS countries recently as several members of the groups are shifting alliances. On April 2nd, several major oil producers, including Saudi Arabia, Russia, the UAE, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, Algeria, announced plans to cut oil production in 2023. The cuts will begin in May, and it's estimated that production will be reduced by 1.15 million barrels per day. After the decision, the White House responded to the news by stating that oil cut production was not advisable. Despite statements from the Biden administration and various policymakers vowing consequences, the last time major oil producers cut production, Saudi Arabian leaders do not seem to care. And the reason why they don't seem to care is because a lot of these countries are actually starting to get a little pissed off when it comes to every time, they do something that the United States doesn't necessarily agree with. They tend to use the Swiss system to cut off their bank accounts. So that's one of the main reasons why they're trying to move off the U.S. dollar. And according to a report by Summer Sade and Stephen Kalin, people familiar with the conversation explained that the prince wants something in return for anything he gives Washington. The report also claims that oil production cut has major political ramifications and could add to Riyadh's already significant tensions with Washington. Last year, Saudi government officials reportedly mocked President Joe Biden over his mental acuity. In July, Biden flew to Saudi Arabia to meet with the prince and press the Saudis for more oil production. However, Saudi government refused his request, and after Biden left, the U.S. president was ridiculed on television broadcast aired by Saudi Arabia, calling him Sleepy Joe. At this time, people familiar with the matter told the article that the unnamed members of the Saudi government say Prince and his team privately make fun of President Joe Biden behind his back. Biden was also mocked when he traveled to see the prince and decided to not shake the prince's hand instead of offering a pandemic and fire-inspired fist bump. Amid the Saudi government's message to the American tensions with BRICS nations, the U.S. government's exceptionalism that inspired the 2004 comedy Team America World seems to be fading faster than ever before. This year, after a 48 year relationship solely with the U.S. dollar. Saudi's finance minister said the kingdom is open to trading in currencies other than the U.S. dollar. More analysts and economics have stressed that the U.S. dollar has been propped up by the petrodollar scheme since 1944. The recent events in 2023 indicate that the green superiority is taking a back seat, and many officials abroad don't seem to care what the U.S. thinks these days. Now, why do these countries not care what the U.S. thinks these days? Number one is because they don't respect the president. They think like the whole United States is just playing around. Now, the backstory as to why these countries don't necessarily respect us anymore is because a lot of the world sees the United States as, for one, we're a bunch of consumers who all we want is to give everybody and their mother freedom. And now when it comes to freedom, it's more so, okay, a lot of countries don't necessarily agree with the LGBT rights. A lot of those countries hate that. A lot of countries don't necessarily agree with the way America structures society when it comes to women being able to walk around naked and half naked, or people being able to today be a girl, then the next day be a man. A lot of those countries don't necessarily agree with those type of lifestyles, which kind of adds fuel to the fire. But the major thing is that a lot of these countries are sick and tired of every time they decide that they want to make a conscious decision for themselves, the U.S. tends to try to get into their business and tries to punish them for making decisions based on what's good for them. And then they also, one of the major things is if a lot of these countries are able to utilize another currency and not utilize the U.S. dollar, they won't be subject to having their international bank accounts frozen by the Swiss accounts. But let me know what you guys think about this situation in the comments. Personally, I agree with Saudi. I really feel like, I personally feel like a lot of these countries should take matters into their own hands. And, this possibly could lead to war. But, this is just going to put America into the place to where, for one, we need to start producing our own products. Two, we need to start, taking the alpha male approach and having a zero tolerance policy. One of the reasons why I personally don't like Joe Biden is because I don't feel like he's taking enough initiative when it comes to the disrespect and also the disregards for the international issues. I think everything is just all buddy, happy, when it really shouldn't be like that. And that's why a lot of those countries respected Trump, because even though Trump was outright crazy, doing all type of things, he's still on business and people respected him. Trump was ready to push that button if anybody got out of line. And that's what I feel the type of energy that is needed to move this country forward, especially with these international tensions that are starting to rise up. But let me know what you guys think about this topic in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share.